Testing. 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 Wow, I've gone really quiet, my microphone. That's better. Right, hello, willkommen, bienvenue, konnichiwa. It's time for another Amish Inquisition, episode 391. On Sunday, the 14th of September, 2025. I'm Phil.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Matt.
And tonight, we're joined by a returning guest for his second appearance. An author of many books. 3 books, count them.
3.
Where's the third one gone? I had it a minute. Here it is.
Oh, no.
Oh, there we go. Look.
3 shall be the number of the books.
See mine.
Which one have you got, Matt? Origins of the Zodiac?
The Origin of the Zodiac.
Who's thickest?
Excuse me?
I'm the thickest. The new book is the thickest. The Origin of Time and the Great Sirius Observatory. And the author is here to tell us all about it. Hugh Evans. How you doing, Hugh?
Hi guys. I'm well. How are you all?
Good, thanks.
Good.
Thanks for inviting me on the show again. It's been a while.
Absolute pleasure, yeah. I looked, it was episode 313, I think it was.
Yeah.
So it must be at least 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And you've got a book that's come out in the meantime, The Origins of Time. What's it all about?
Well, it is about this pre-Diluvian or Antediluvian civilization. In fact, they're pre-Younger Dryas, who basically created our civilization. And they encoded all of their thoughts in the stars and everything else around us. So that's what my 3 books are about. When I was on the show last time, I gave you a sneak preview of some of the pages of The Origin of Time, which you had in your hand there, Phil. Mm. And since that show, I've really had my head down, finished The Origin of Time, and then I expanded The Origin of Numbers, which was my second book. So Ben had the second edition of The Origin of Numbers in his hand. That's doubled in size now. And it is my complete works now. So, wow. Yeah.
It's your legacy.
Excellent.
Yeah. I thought it looked thicker, because I think I must have the first edition of the Numbers book.
Yeah, I think you did, yeah. And it's only Numbers second edition is only like 4 weeks back from the printers now, so
wow,
that's really quite current.
Still warm.
Still wet, yeah.
Still on the first few boxes.
Right, super. And so, when did The Origin of Time come out?
About a year ago.
Right.
Yeah, about a year ago.
Okay. And is that pulling together stuff from the previous 2 books? Is that the idea, and expanding on them, or what?
Yeah. I mean, I started sort of like getting into this subject, and it just became so vast that it ended up being 3 books. I couldn't have written 1 book. I mean, the 3 books are over 900 pages in full color. So it couldn't have been 1 book. It just would not have sufficed to explain. I've had to narrow the scope somewhat. Otherwise, it would just be trying to boil the sea. So I've narrowed the scope to defining the origins. It's not a complete chronological explanation of many things, but it is, I believe, the origin of the stars, the heavens, the constellations, our numbers, measurement, a whole load of things.
Where do you think it's a good place to start? Would it be with like the system itself and its evolution, or with the people who came up with it?
That's a really good question, and it's almost like there isn't a start, because I've got a presentation which maybe we'll get to in a little while, but the whole understanding of the natural world and spiritual belief occurred over a long period of time, and over that period of time, language evolved. And the reason why we can go back to the origin using one language is because that language hasn't changed. It's a verbal language, and it's made up of components, and all of those components are shared with other words. So you can't reverse a meaning into the language because it's reliant on the components. You can't change the components because it changes the meaning of all the other words. There's very few loan words in Old Welsh. In fact, there aren't any. I don't know of any. Unlike English, where there's a lot of loan words, like pajamas, we got that from India. But there's
Us.
none.
When you say loan words, you mean like a bank loan rather than loan singular on its own.
Yeah,
Right,
like
a
it's been
loan
borrowed.
word.
Borrowed words.
Right, so a lot of our words come from Latin roots and Greek roots and things like that.
We've been told that, but
Right.
the origins are the Welsh language of Latin and Greek.
Right. So Welsh is the origin of Latin and Greek.
Yeah,
Wow.
Come
all
on, Phil,
languages.
everyone knows that.
So, once you get into the Origin of Numbers, the book that Ben has got, second edition, that's part of the introduction. About where did language come from?
Were you introduced to this through Ross Broadstock, this area?
Well, we were working on some things together. So I started reading Wilson and Blackett through Ross Broadstock. In fact, another friend recommended Wilson and Blackett to me. Her name is Yvonne Weitzman. She's the world's foremost authority on the Colburn Bible. And she recommended I read Wilson and Blackett, which I did. And I worked with Ross Broadstock on identifying some of the locations that Wilson and Blackett talk about in the Cardiff, the Gwent area, and in Pembrokeshire. But I independently discovered, in inverted commas, the Star Maps of Gwynedd, which is in North Wales, which was my first book, The Origin of the Zodiac.
Right. And it would make sense for a landscape zodiac to be up there because you're so close to Anglesey and sort of like the stronghold of the Druids. Or was it Mona? Did they used to call it Mona?
Ynys Mons is Anglesey in Welsh. Is that what you mean?
I think so, yeah. It's a sacred place and has been for thousands and thousands of years, so you would expect...
It's absolutely incredible place, and it's only through the greatness of the people in Gwynedd that the star maps and the language has been maintained for thousands of years. I knew Ross quite well, and so I helped edit his Cymraeg second edition book.
Right, very good. Yeah. I don't know if how you want to proceed. Is it worth looking at some slides now and sort of trying to get like an overview of what's going on?
Yeah.
And then we can maybe ask some questions as we go.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen now.
Cool. Just give me 1 second. I've just got to enhance, rotate, magnify. Where was it? Window capture.
24.
It was window capture 24.
I think so.
Oh, right, yeah. You're right,
Wow.
You're right. Well remembered, Matt. There we go. We can see it. Look at that wonderful thumbnail someone made. How clickable is that thumbnail?
I mean,
And it's up there, isn't it?
Look at that curiosity gap it's filling. Who coded the constellations?
question mark. Click on
Okay, Hugh. We can see
Right.
the screen.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is firstly introduce. This was my first book, The Origin of the Zodiac, Cad Idris and Star Maps of Gwynedd, and I claim that the Star Maps of Gwynedd is the most important ancient artifact on Earth. And there are lots of fantastic ancient artifacts on Earth, Stonehenge, the pyramids, but the Star Maps of Gwynedd, I claim, is the most important. So I will validate that claim in the slides that follow. Once I'd finished the origin of the zodiac, I realized I hadn't completed the investigation. So I started writing the origin of time. And in its conclusion, I claim that for the first time, the 88 constellations have been explained back to their origin. And my third book, or the second book, now in second edition, is the origin of numbers and the roots of civilization. And ancient people created our numbers, shapes, vowels, elements, maths, measurement science, and much more, music. And it is the Quadrivium. So the first two books are on the stars. The Quadrivium is arithmetic, music, geometry, and astronomy. So the first two books are the astronomy, which are in detail, and then the origin of numbers completes the Quadrivium.
Okay.
So the origin of the zodiac, the Star Maps of Gwynedd, is the most important artifact on Earth, and they are the book, The Origin of the Zodiac, answers the questions what, where, and how. So what is the Star Maps of Gwynedd? Well, it is a landscape zodiac. Can you see my cursor? I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It covers North Wales, Northwest Wales, and it is defined by the mountains, rivers, ancient megaliths, sacred sites, fields, features, modern buildings. So even the tithe maps name the fields, and the fields are named in relation to their function on the star map. And modern buildings, pubs, for example, they often have retained the names of what had gone before. Churches are on ancient sites. Mm-hmm. My big breakthrough was realizing that the orange line here are the rivers of Gwynedd. And once I'd realized that the orange line, which is the ecliptic, were the rivers, all of the constellations around the ecliptic were able to be identified. And it's a bit like driving around, your local town. If you go drive around, you'll see a sign for the library, for the post office, for the police station, things like that. So these zodiacs are written into the landscape, and but it's all in Welsh. So it's no surprise really that they've remained sort of like hidden, because there aren't a lot of astronomers wandering around who speak Welsh who can identify them.
Right.
And the where, well, it covers 1 million acres, 2,000 square miles, a quarter of Wales, and all of ancient Gwynedd, right up to the English border over here.
Okay.
And so this is the ecliptic. So the northern circumpolar constellations are in the middle, and all the southern constellations are in the area outside of the orange line. I have to credit Mike Harris, who wrote the book Arwen. He had identified Cadair Idris at the center, and two other constellations. But and they are in the right place. So I wasn't the first person to do that, but I found all the others.
Does this suggest that some constellations are under the water there after the raising of the sea levels at the end of the last ice age?
Maybe. And I claim that this is the location of the modern zodiac that we know today. And we know from the Bible and from the book of Enoch that Enoch goes up to be with God. And in the book of Enoch, it says he goes to take instruction from Uriel and re-identifies or reclassifies the constellations. So in Cardigan Bay here, the sea level has risen quite a lot because it's very sort of shelving. It shelves over a long distance over towards Ireland.
Right.
So I think one of the reasons why Virgo now lies on her side is because the land has been lost where she once stood.
Wow. Cool.
So that's a reveal. I haven't mentioned that anywhere else.
Exclusive.
There we are. So how do we know that this is the origin of the zodiac? Well, there are three types of constellations. There are those land features that are a close fit to very distinct constellations above. So the plough is fit on the mountains of Cad Idris. I mean, there are loads of mountains, but these are named and reflect the constellation, and they reflect the stars in the constellation, the plough. There are constellations on the ground, set out on the ground, that are made to match the stars above. So if we go back a slide, you can see Corona Borealis just to the side of Ursa Major, and it's over here somewhere in the night sky. But on the land in Gwynedd, this constellation has been made by these scheduled monuments. So they're like stone circles, standing stones. They're extremely ancient. They're Cadw, which is the Welsh equivalent of English heritage, have dated them at Bronze Age, but they don't really know, and they're obviously stone, so they're probably Stone Age. And this is Corona Borealis, which in ancient British mythology is Ariane Rod's wheel, and that's what her name means, silver wheel. And these lakes have been made by creating artificial thresholds. And then the proof that the Star Maps of Gwynedd is the origin of the modern zodiac is that some constellations above have been made in the night sky to fit the features on the ground and not the other way around. So Pisces is a meandering constellation with lots of stars. Some bright stars have been left out. It's on the edge of, it's above or below the Milky Way, so there aren't a lot of bright stars. And this, the lines of the constellation are actually chosen to reflect these two main rivers and a number of scheduled monuments. So that was the first book, The Origin of the Zodiac. The Star Maps of Gwynedd is the most important ancient artifact on Earth because it connects us to an ancient civilization by language. And here is an explanation of the English word language. Clan, which we know what the Scottish clans are and the Irish clans, and every other town in Wales is called clan this, clan that. And clan is made of some smaller words. So now you're seeing a demonstration of this verbal language that's made up of components. Chle, a chle, is a place, a host, an is to contain. A place that contains a host is a clan, or in this modern sense, a clan is like a parish around a town. And gwed is to say or speak. Llangwed is the speech of a people.
I like it.
So this is a demonstration. If you do an etymology search online, it will say, oh, it's Latin or Greek origin. Well, it won't give you an explanation. There's no intrinsic meaning in Latin or Greek, rarely, but there is an intrinsic meaning in Welsh.
And how far does like the mainstream regard the Welsh language to go back?
They don't recognise it at all. In fact, that's not quite accurate. They just don't. They don't talk about it.
Nothing to see here, folks.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I haven't put it in my presentation. But if you look in the origin of numbers, I give you a history of it. So I'll talk from memory now, which is always a bad idea. But Sir William Jones was the first person to categorize the Indo-European languages. And he was a Welsh speaker. He was a circuit judge that toured Wales. And he knew absolutely, the origins of the Welsh language because he spoke it. And he ended up his life in India and addressed his hypotheses to an organization that he set up in Calcutta, I think it was. I've written about it in the book. And I quote, in fact, what I'll do is I'll read my own book and quote him. Get to the page. Yeah. He said that the origin of Greek, Latin, Sanskrit, Gothic, Celtic, and Persian was some common source which perhaps no longer exists. But he was being politically correct at the time, and really you can just say Welsh.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so it's not popular, and it's certainly not popular with successive governments in this country. They have successively tried to discourage, until very recently, people speaking Welsh. There was a big effort once Ireland had left the empire to stop people speaking Welsh completely because they feared that Wales might go a similar route.
Yeah.
So it's just not been put forward as a solution, if you like.
Yeah.
And so we have this academic construct called Proto-Indo-European. There are no Proto-Indo-Europeans. It's like let's just point everywhere. And there's no dictionary. But we do have Welsh dictionaries, and I use Welsh dictionaries extensively. I will show you some excerpts. If I showed you them all the way through, it would become tedious. All my work is repeatable, checkable, scrutinizable. So, and once I got to the end of the origin of the zodiac, that was the what, the where, the how, I realized I'd sort of gone into this vast area and I hadn't answered the who, when, and why. So I started writing the origin of time, and very quickly I realized that I couldn't complete this work without writing the origin of numbers, because the people who designed the constellations, they had a robust method of numbering. You can't look at the constellations, the movement of stars over an incredibly long period of time without having a robust and sufficient numerical system. And just like we have to endure this language nonsense, we have to endure numerical nonsense. We're told that our numbers have evolved from what are called Brahmi numerals, from, again, somewhere in the middle of Asia, which look like mosquito larvae, really. And this was only in the first millennium BCE. Well, if you're going to chart the constellations over thousands of millennia, or certainly hundreds of millennia, then you need a robust counting system. So in the origin of time, I claim that for the first time, the 88 constellations have been explained back to their origin. So I build on the origin of the zodiac. In the origin of the zodiac, I mainly worked on the northern circumpolar constellations and the constellations around the ecliptic, because I believed that the southern constellations wouldn't be there. I'd been indoctrinated to think that our ancient ancestors were not capable of understanding all the stars in the night sky. So I just didn't look for them. So what I did in The Origin of Time is I looked for the remaining constellations. So all of the 48 Ptolemaic constellations are on the ground in Gwynedd, including those in the southern celestial hemisphere. And I provide an explanation for the other 40 more modern constellations. And I use that phrase, more modern, because some of them are actually ancient. They just weren't recorded by Ptolemy, who didn't do any stargazing himself, by the way. He just went to a library and looked at what all the other ancient astronomers had been looking at.
Well, he kind of inherited ancient Egypt, didn't he, after the fall of Alexander? And
yeah, they had
took all the credit for it.
Yeah, they had the Library of Alexandria. He copied everything out of there. They moved everything they wanted to Rome, then they burnt it down. Yeah. That's what I think. So an ancient people charted the heavens, named the constellations, the stars and planets, created numbers, shapes, conceptualized time in all its forms. And they did this in one language a very long time ago. And in The Origin of Time, I list all the scales of time and their origins in one language using the same methodology.
Would that be like minute, hour, day?
Everything.
Right.
Yeah, solstice, equinox, all the months, all the days of the week.
Right.
Yeah.
Up to the great year, the processional year.
Yeah, I do procession. I've got a slide coming up on procession.
Nice. Super.
So here is let's consider the celestial sphere. Now we're told celestial is Latin from the word for the sky. Well, it's not. Celestre means in Welsh star matrix, vessel. A matrix is a network. A vessel is something that moves in time and space. What a perfect explanation. And again, chlestra is made up of two smaller words, and we've seen the chl already used in chlan. Chl is a place where est is a state of separation. Again, perfect explanation of chlestra being a matrix and a vessel. You know, and once you get into the technique of understanding the language, it is absolutely phenomenally powerful and beautiful at the same time. It's wonderful. And there is nothing stronger than actually a verbal tradition to maintain information, because you have to maintain the same information across the whole population. And it only evolves one sort of idea at a time, which are then adopted by everybody. And it is incredibly resilient. In the first millennium, we moved to a written method of history or recording history. And when that happened, a small group of people are able to determine history and impose it on the vast majority. And that led to 1,500 years of dark ages. So I've had my little rant there. So we're moving on. Here is precession. Pre is the origin of a course. Se, we've already seen se in celestre. Es is a suffix that makes a collective noun. A collective noun for a star is a constellation, and the is a plural suffix. Precession, the origin course of the constellations. So now I'd like to ask you guys and everyone at home to do something.
Oh, pressure.
Imagine you are astronomers and you live for a very long time, and you're at home and your family or whoever you're with are all astronomers, and you're all living a very long time.
Oh, sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah. Right. So on Sunday morning at 10 a.m., Someone comes to the door and rings the doorbell, a stranger. Then they go away. So what are you thinking?
Bloody kids.
Eh?
Bloody kids. Knock a door, run.
Yeah.
What are the things you discuss with your fellow astronomers in your family? That was odd. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The next week, the stranger comes round and rings the doorbell at noon and then goes away. Now what are you thinking?
He's going to come back next week at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
No?
The following week, the same stranger comes round at 2 p.m. on Sunday and rings the doorbell. So now what are you thinking? So how have your thoughts changed?
Well, after the first 2 times, you immediately predict a pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though there isn't one, you can't have a pattern with 2 points of data, really.
That's correct.
But
Yeah,
as soon as
that's
you
right.
get 2, you
So
make
how
a third one in your head.
How certain are you by the third time?
That it's going to continue happening. I mean, yeah.
The following week it happens at 4 p.m. Now what are you thinking?
This is a cycle.
Yeah.
Right. Does it take 4 instances to get there?
I don't know.
Anyway, you'll make up your own minds. 2, 3, or 4, something like that.
This comes down to sort of probability, though, doesn't it?
Okay, because the pole star going around is 100,000 years.
I don't follow you. What do you mean the pole star going around?
The pole star, the precession of the equinoxes, repeating 4 times is 100,000 years. That will be the pole star.
Oh, the
thing
4
back to Cologne.
times.
Yeah,
Right.
that's 100,000 years.
Oh my God. Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So how would they be sure it was going to happen? Like, you can observe it. You would imagine with a good enough record keeping an observation, you could observe that 1 degree every 72 years shift, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how would you know it's going to come back round again until you've actually witnessed it?
Well, that's it. Okay. Arcturus moves a quarter of the way around the heavens in 100,000 years.
Wow.
It's not the fastest moving star, but Sirius is the fastest moving star that's visible. The Pleiades, which if you hold your hand out or your arm out and put your thumb up, covers your thumbnail, moves 1 thumbnail every 100,000 years.
Wow.
And it rotates around the central star, Alcyone.
Does it? I never knew that.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Well, this is the origin of all the myths of, 7 sisters, or there's a Japanese myth about 7 maidens that come and bathe at the side of the ocean, and one of them falls in love with a fisherman who's trying to court her, and so she stays on Earth and becomes mortal, and then there's only 6. So these myths are about as the stars turn, some of them have gone into a conjunction, so they look like they're 1 star and 2 stars.
Ah.
And to put this into context, over 100,000 years, a lot of the other stars move.
Okay.
And these 4 stars here are the 4 fixed stars on the ecliptic. They are Regulus in Leo. Aldebaran in Taurus, Antares in Scorpio, and Fomalhaut, which is now in a different constellation, but we won't go into that today.
Is that what they call like the cardinal points?
Yeah.
The lion, the bull, the eagle, and the man.
Yeah, so these have evolved through the ages. So I talk about the origin. I tell you what their names mean. We'll do one in a minute.
Right.
Over 100,000 years, Sirius goes around the whole of the heavens 4 times. It's the fastest moving star at the moment. That's visible, but it moves a lot faster when it's closer to us. So our ancient ancestors worked out that the only way that these objects can be moving as we see them from Earth is that we are in a binary relationship with Sirius because it's moving fastest and goes all the way around the heavens. Yeah. And they noticed this over 100,000 years. And that we together are going around Arcturus. And that this whole group is going around the Pleiades, which is actually what happens. This is actually their movement in space. And our ancient ancestors understood this. Now, these movements are what I call the 3 great rings of time. So the movements of these main bodies. I only realized this, I only worked this out once I'd almost completed the origin of time. The 3 rings are, the 3 great rings of time are the ecliptic. This measures time in scale. So all of these stars, all of the planets, the sun and the moon go around the ecliptic. Yeah. The ring of creation, which is the story of human origins, and the Milky Way, which is the spiritual journey. This is the 3 great rings of time. They create the celestial sphere. A celestial sphere will collapse if there are only 2 rings. And all the constellations all the ancient constellations sit on these 3 great rings of time. They're all in their proper places. A crab in between the twins and the lion. They are all these imageries employed, their tools, what they're doing, their mythology, represent their correct location on these 3 great rings, and they're explained in one language. These are the 3 great rings of time, and these represent the movement of the Pleiades and Sirius, Arcturus, and the sun and the moon and the planets. And it takes 100,000 years to work this out, I reckon. You know, all the constellations placed on 3 great rings of time, all with their proper functions in relation to their neighbors, all created by an ancient people in one language. The ecliptic is the greater luminaries that measures time in sort of units that we understand. Arcturus, Arctur, is a superior turn, a boss, a boss like the center of a propeller, something that you go around. And that's what Arcturus means. And we actually go around Arcturus. The Pleiades, Pleiad means belonging to a party. It's a group. It's a group of stars where all the other stars move over 100,000 years. This little tight group stays the same. And our ancient ancestors understood this. And there is an excerpt from the dictionary. So like I said earlier, I could do this for everything. I'm not going to tell you anything that I haven't checked. Right. Alcyone, the central star, Al, which is like a prefix, like we have supermarket, that's like a super prefix. I could just put great there. Key is a holdfast. On actually means continuity. The great holdfast or super holdfast of continuity. That's what Alcyone means. It's been adopted into Greek mythology, and they created a whole new story around it. Sirius was called Serios in Greek, and that's, here again is the Welsh, to harness. This is our harnessed partner. And in Latin, Ser, Chri, chief star. And there's Sid. That is the origin of the zodiac, a winding. So I think it takes 100,000 years to watch these stars and name them appropriately. So the origin of numbers, which is just back second edition from the printers, the same people who named the stars, constellations, time in all its scales, they also named our numbers. They invented them. And they created our shapes because they needed to do that to understand the natural world and conceptualize the heavens. They determined pi, phi, logarithms. These are all Welsh terms. Pi is Welsh, it means a constraint. The Sir William Jones I mentioned earlier, who categorized the Indo-European languages, his father, also called William Jones, one of the founding members of the Royal Society, he suggested the name for pi. And he was a Welsh speaker.
Wow.
Because they were both, father and son. Okay, so the sort of light bulb went on about the origin of numbers when I was trying to understand how this ancient people conceptualized the heavens. And I realized that the number 4 related to the ecliptic and the pole star. So because this symbol here, the cross with the circle around it, is also the ancient symbol for the Earth. And this is the Earth observer in the middle. And the 4 stars on the ecliptic that don't move are Aldebaran, Regulus, Antares, Fomalhaut. And the pole star is the top component of that is joined by the sloping arm. And once you have this fixed framework, you can monitor every other movement of celestial body. You need to have a fixed framework. Otherwise, you're not measuring against anything. And from that, I determined the other numbers. So the number 1, for example, it is most usually drawn with a vertical axis, a slight little nose, and a flat base. And this is the rotational axis of the celestial heavens, the prime longitude, and the celestial equator. And we still use this method of measuring the location of a star today. We call it right ascension, the distance from the prime longitude around the celestial equator, and the declination, which is the distance up and below the celestial equator. And this was designed thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago.
That's mental.
Now I'll go back, Aldebaran, the great southern summit that contains. And there it is. Antares, opposite Taurus in Welsh.
Whoa! Antares in Welsh means opposite Taurus.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, I for one welcome our Welsh overlords.
Here are all the visible planets and the sun and the moon. Merkur, the quickest, most erratic, is the origin of Mercury. Mars, Mawrth, the greatest. In fact, the Romans tell us that Mars comes from Proto-Roman Mawrth, from Etruscan Mawrth, and the Etruscans spoke a language similar to Welsh. Very interestingly, Jupiter, which is a modern representation of the name of the planet, because The Romans called it Iove, is from EI, and it means, and the same word is, we get juvenile in English. It's the youngest planet. So the planets weren't all made at the same time. That's another thing that we're going to have to put in the bin with Brahmi numerals and Proto-Indo-European.
That suggests that that someone witnessed the formation of Jupiter.
Correct.
But we get told that like Jupiter's our big brother. If it weren't for Jupiter, we'd just get smashed by asteroids constantly.
On now, but this is the origin of the mythology about Jupiter usurping Saturn, both in Greek and Latin.
Right, because Saturn was the big daddy beforehand.
And that's what Saturn means. That which is fixed and turning, because it was closer to us. Anyway, I'm sort of going off script here a bit, but I'll move on. And by understanding the planets against the ecliptic and the constellations, you can state a unique date. So when I made this slide, it was May the 8th, 2022, and that's 5/4 of the moon's cycles with Venus and Jupiter in Pisces, Mars and Saturn in Aquarius. That is a unique date. And it was designed by our ancient ancestors.
What?
So in my book, The Origin of Numbers, having to sort of like go through all of this, I invariably started looking at other areas because they crossed over. So mathematics and science, I do a lot of mathematics and science, the origin of the constants that we now take for granted, pi, phi, that sort of thing. And this is a very interesting word, mathematics, because we know that it was used by Pythagoras, who is actually very old, even in Greek history. So this word was inherited by the Greeks. Math, a place, spot, abstract noun spelled incorrectly. And there are a number of small words with ebb. We get ebb in English. Ed, which is motion velocity. F, an effect, and so on. Moa, what expands. And these suffixes tig and s create an abstract concept and a plural. So mathematics is the abstract concept of the effect of motion on things that are in a place or spot and things that are expanding. Okay, in Welsh. A body remains at rest or constant motion unless acted upon by a force, Newton's first law.
Wow.
So I reckon Newton read this in the Greek because he told us that he translated original Greek manuscripts.
Right.
I do all the elements, all of them. Chemistry and physics. Hydrogen, quickly water makes.
Hydrogen.
Does exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
And the word for water in Greek is nero, actually, not. They do have a door, but the most common word for water is nero in Greek. We're told it's from the Greek, it's not. If you can isolate hydrogen, which is not easy, and then you light it, all that is left is a small trace of water. So the ancients who named hydrogen, they must have known how to isolate it. I'll do another one here. Sulfur, earth burning. We're told if you want to look online etymology, Latin, it's from Latin sulfur, and they say which is probably from a root meaning to burn. They don't really know,
No.
but all the elements are explained in Welsh.
Roman Empire's got a lot to answer for, hasn't it?
Well,
That's where all this comes from, doesn't
the
it?
Roman Empire they weren't trying to establish themselves. They really were only wanting to make money. It's how they've been portrayed in modern times. They're the culprits.
Right.
So in the book, the origin and second edition, I do all these measurements back to their origins. I explain the meaning of the names, the origin of the names, and connect that to the ancient people who designed them. And these lengths and these other measurements, they are built into the ancient structures that are tens of thousands of years old, or, some of them are maybe 10,000 years old. A lot of them are certainly many thousands of years old.
Yeah.
And also music. So it is a proof of the quadrivium. Arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. Obviously, astronomy is done in detail in the origin of the zodiac and the origin of time. We're told quadrivium is Latin, and they give a really mangled answer, but rhiv in Welsh is a division, a number. And it's also proof of the trivium, which is grammar, rhetoric, and logic, the origin of the trivium. So my work is a proof of the origin of the quadrivium and the trivium. All of these things were created by an ancient people who charted the heavens and must have looked at the heavens for at least 75,000 years, probably longer. There was a depopulating event 70,000 years ago. We don't know what it is, but we know from human DNA that the number of DNA strands that survived were very few in number, and universities are estimating that human beings reduced to about 10,000 70,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So this gives a mechanism for one language to come through with one understanding. So that's how old it is, I believe. So the origin of time, I try to complete the questions, the who, the when, and the why. We've discussed the when. The why really was whoever controlled time controlled everything. We take it for granted these days, the ubiquitous availability and free use and availability of time. This show started at 8 o'clock. We all knew when 8 o'clock was going to come around. We didn't need anyone's authority to do that. We just got on with it. But in ancient times, that wasn't the case. Whoever controlled time controlled everything. So it's like a secret weapon.
Yeah.
We talked about the three great rings of time, measuring time in scale, human origin, spiritual journey. So I'm answering the who because that was on the thumbnail.
Yes.
For the presentation. So I'm going to just go through a little bit of the ring of the Milky Way to help explain the who.
Right. Good.
So the Milky Way is the spiritual journey. There are three great rings of time. The ecliptic is time measured in scale. And the Milky Way is a spiritual, it's like a metaphysical concept of time. It's the journey of the soul as an individual, as a collective, as the repository of spirits, awen, for mortal nourishment and the passing and the last voyage. So all the constellations are on the Milky Way that represent this journey. Here are the constellations. We start at Centaurus, which is the repository of spirit at the far south celestial pole. Now, our ancient ancestors understood the South Celestial Pole, but it was so far away and so sort of like vague for those people who lived in the Northern Hemisphere that they placed it as the repository of spirit, and that is represented by the Centaurus group. We come from the spirit world. The coracle here, Corona Austrinis, which was its original name, crosses the ecliptic. This is birth, and we cross the ecliptic into the mortal plane. And this is has been reworked by both Sargon of Acadia, who floated down the river in a little wicker basket, and then it was repurposed again by Moses. Yeah. And it may even be the cradle in the manger. So then the life journey comes into the mortal world. We get to the top of the celestial heavens, and the two characters that created the heavens are up there, Cepheus now and Cassiopeia in their Latin names. And Cassiopeia is Don in the British tradition, and she pours Owen into the mortal world, which is goodness. And then there's the Centaurus group. That's one of the images from my book. We'll talk about that in a little more. There is the Centaurus group in the night sky. And there it is on the ground in North Wales.
Now they look like mountain ranges and stuff, so that suggests that, like you said before with Pisces, they've taken the features they had and then imprinted them into the sky.
Correct. And that one there in the middle is Snowdon. Right. That's the highest mountain in Wales, and it's roughly where Alpha Centauri would be, which is our nearest star. Wow. So you can't start a star map and then luckily locate a star on a mountain when you sort of like come across the star. You have to understand the entire heavens first, and then you can start laying the star map and associating our nearest star with the highest mountain, so to give it its prominence. And these stars are presently not visible from Wales. You only see some of the stars of Centaurus at the opposite end of the precessionary cycle, and even then you don't see the entire constellation. So the people who laid out the Star Maps of Gwynedd on the ground in Gwynedd, and also charted the heavens, they must have known all the stars before they chose Gwynedd to lay out the star map. So there's this concept Gwith, which means spirit in Welsh, and it's from a smaller word gwe, which means to glide, which is it's a very interesting concept. You know, this is a metaphysical concept. They were trying to understand the physical world and metaphysical world at the same time as their language evolved. Gwith is also the word for a goose because it glides. So if you wanted to represent the abstract notion of spirit, you draw a goose. A branch is also a gwith. That's why Centaurus holds a branch, both in Greece and this is in Scotland. Snowdon's Welsh name is Withfa, and the G's been just come off there, and that means the place of spirit. And if we go back here, I think the constellation Ara, since we're on the Milky Way now, there's lots of bright stars here, and Lupus are only constellations because of these mountains.
Yeah. Wow.
So in the ancient description of the constellations, Lupus, the wolf, was originally called the wild animal, which is a gwythfil. So I explain all of this in all the books. And then when you die, the ancients didn't think that's what happened. They thought you passed and went on another journey, and that is on the Great Boat. And the Great Boat goes back to Centaurus. And here is the spiritual world, the mortal world, and the underworld. And there you can see the Welsh flag, just needs a red dragon on it. So that's the three great rings of time.
Again, that boat analogy is just so common, isn't it? With the pharaohs going on the boat to meet Osiris, or crossing the river Styx, paying the ferryman.
Yeah.
Viking funerals. Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I do go into a lot of that explanation. I mean, I don't do a complete explanation of Roman and Greek mythology. The Greeks were a little bit more embarrassed that they'd had to inherit all of these constellations, so they started renaming them and giving them different roles. But anyway, so the people, the Who, they were a people who had traveled the oceans. They understood all the stars. They chose northwest Wales to set out the star map because it's remote, it's very benevolent climate. At 52.5 degrees north, it is has a very high degree of accuracy in monitoring the movement of the sun, the moon, the planets, and the stars. If you live on the equator where the day length is the same length every day of the year, you don't know what day where you are in the year if you're using the sun.
Yep.
If you go up to the Arctic Circle where it's all day or all night, again you can't chart the heavens. So at around 52.5 degrees north, which is the exact latitude of Cad Idris, you've got a very accurate method of measuring the movement of the great luminaries. And I'm reminded of the third book of Enoch, the book of luminaries. Chlu min ar chri. Chlu is the sun, or a bright orb. Min, edge. Ar, upon. Chri, chief. The book of the movement of the sun and the moon and the planets. Wow. And in that book, it tells us that Enoch goes to chart the heavens with Uriel at where the average of the average day length to night length is 1/2 in the winter and 1 in the summer for the 30 days around the solstice. And that only happens at 52.5 degrees north.
Wow. So Enoch was a Welshman.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he might well have spoken as something like that, but he obviously went from somewhere to be with Uriel, who was there. And Uriel is a Welsh name, Ur-Chri-El. We've just had Chri in Luminar Chri. Uriel just means the chief spirit. El, like Michael, Gabriel, angel. En means being, and Och means diminutive. So Enoch might just mean the student. So we're talking about the Who, where we talked about Enoch and Uriel. So the Romans weren't embarrassed that they hadn't created the constellations. They were more interested in warring and accumulating money. There are no Roman gods in the heavens. Hercules is a remake of Heracles, and in Welsh it means the champion.
No way.
Yes, I put it in the book.
Wow.
There it is, Heracles. The
This is
Greeks
very
were
compelling.
more embarrassed because they thought that they wrote a lot of things down. They plundered a lot out of the Egyptians,
Yep.
and they tried to repurpose some of the constellations. They turned Cepheus upside down to make him appear a joke, and they sat Cassiopeia on a chair, and they called them the king and queen of Ethiopia, which was a distant land far enough away that no one needed to be worried about it. And they boasted that their daughter Andromeda was more beautiful than Poseidon's daughters, the Nereids. He was so incensed that he sent the Kraken to destroy their land. And then we get the myth about Perseus slaying the Gorgon to defeat the Kraken and save Andromeda. And it's basically a representation of previous mythology. Anyway, I've been a bit distracted. So there are no Greek gods in the heavens. There are none of the 12 Olympians. Yes, there is Heracles, and yes, there is Perseus, but they're demigods.
But are they not associated with planets, Hugh? You know, like Zeus being Jupiter and
Yeah, probably. Jupiter's was
Mars.
Latin, so you know the Romans did the planets, didn't they? There we are, Roman
Right.
planet.
Sorry,
Yeah,
got you, yeah.
yeah. So the Romans they worshipped the planets. They inherited all the constellations. Ptolemy was Roman. He
Got you.
wrote them all up.
Got you.
So there are no Egyptian gods in the heavens. Okay, yes, there is Osiris, but he's a remake from a previous civilization. And the 8 gods that made the universe in Egyptian mythology, they're not represented in the heavens. And same with the Babylonians. We do have Enlil, who is Bootes, and Enki, who
Enkidu.
is Aquarius, perhaps.
Right.
Anu was the creator of the heavens in Babylonian mythology. He's not represented in a constellation. Now, this is a tree of the ancient British or Welsh, Cymraeg, I have to say that for the Welsh viewers, gods, which we're not taught anymore.
Ah.
And these are their constellations.
The Mabinogi.
So their relationships to each other are described in the Mabinogi.
Just explain what the Mabinogi is for people who aren't familiar.
The Mabinogi are the ancient British creation myths. There are 4 books, the 4 main books. And they have been misnamed the Mabinogion, but their original name was the Mabinogi. They were translated into English by Lady Charlotte Guest in the late 1800s, who was, I think she was either English or American English. She married a Welshman.
Right.
And then became aware of them and these magical stories. And she didn't do the translation because I don't think she would have been able to. But I think she employed the best people. So the best people at that time would have been basically the successors to the Druids, and they would have collectively made sure that translation was correct. I've got a Welsh copy actually, so I can always check it.
Was Geoffrey of Monmouth not involved with translating the Mabinogi?
No.
No, I'm getting mixed up.
So the original creator god is Min-again. So we have Gen again from again. We have Gen again from hydrogen, which means to create. Min means edge, brink, but also a will, desire. We've had Min already from Chluminaris. So Min-again created the universe out of will and resides at the fringe or at the edge. And Minnegan begets Bellymore and Don. Bellymore belly is a word which means outside perimeter, and we get Bailey in English from that. More means just great. And Don was his consort, and she brought Owen into the world. And Don means a flow, a tide. So both their names describe what they do. And they are the constellations, Cepheus and Cassiopeia. And they sit at the top of the celestial sphere at the celestial pole, which is where they should be. Minnegan is at the south celestial pole at the edge, and Bellymore and Don are at the north celestial pole. Their children, some of their children, were Arianrod, which we've met already, which was Corona Borealis, and Gwydion. And Arianrod and Gwydion are the constellations Bootes and Virgo, and these are the primordial couple that created humankind, and they are on the ring of creation. They also happen to be at the north pole of the Milky Way. And Gwydion's twin brother, I can't remember his name now, Gylfaethwy or something like that. He is the constellation Cetius, which is the pole, the south pole of the Milky Way. So these three generations occupy the north and south celestial pole and the north and south Milky Way pole. Llw and Blodwedd are Perseus and Andromeda in the British mythology. So the Greeks just copied it and renamed it. And they, as demigods, begat humanity. So I'll move on one. I think it shows you here that their positions. Gylfaethwy, that's it. He's Cepheus. And Bellymore also had a son called Cas Chwalan, and he is the prototype for Hercules, and he occupies the pole of the ecliptic. And that's what his name means. Ka is to hold or keep. Gwal is a skewer or a spindle. Awn is time, the flow of time.
Wow.
And there are only two greyhounds in the celestial heavens. This is interesting because the greyhounds at Bootes, where Bootes holds the hunting dogs, is a modern constellation. So whoever created, I've got it in my book, I can't remember it right off the top of my head, whoever created the greyhounds in the right place had reference to the ancient constellations. So the only two greyhounds in the celestial sphere are the greyhounds of Bootes, which is the north galactic pole, and the greyhound head of Cetus, which also gives us the Noah in the Ark myth, Cetus the whale, which had a greyhound head, is the south galactic pole. And a greyhound, there's a number of words for greyhound, but a bith key. Bith is world, universe, key is hold fast. So that's why they are greyhounds at these two poles. So the who, to answer the question, who charted the heavens? Well, they were an ancient people. I don't know where they originated, but they brought their myth to Britain, and they embedded it in the ground in Gwynedd, and the people there have diligently kept it alive for thousands, if not tens of thousands of years. That is the who.
Wow.
So that's all explained in those three books. You can get them at my website, originofthezodiac.com.
Yes.
There's some bundle deals on there as well.
There's a link in the show notes if anyone wants to go there now. Well, it's originatthezodiac.com or click the link. Dead easy.
Bundle them.
Yeah, that's so fascinating.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's quite a quinky dink, isn't it?
Oh,
The Welsh created the universe.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily the Welsh. Like, it could be someone else. Like you're intimating, it could be someone else who travelled to North Wales and thought this is the spot. This has everything we need.
I think it's. I mean, I try very hard to correlate the units of measurement we see all over the world with this ancient people, because the units of measurement are explained using the Welsh language. So the units of measurement that are used in Peru are explained with Welsh, or the pyramids, or China, or I've got Japan even. And so it was a globally understood language, maybe like English is today. Not everybody speaks English as a first language, but a lot of people know it. It's the ubiquitous language, and local dialects may exist, and national languages may exist, but the English language exists everywhere. So Welsh may have been like that in ancient times.
The ancient lingua franca.
That's it.
You made a great point about the sort of genetic bottleneck that occurred, and that makes it so much more plausible to me that if there was a point in time where we got down to 5,000 breeding pairs, say, for example, that creates an opportunity then for a system to dominate and then populate out throughout the planet.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. And as I was developing my hypotheses and researching my work, these questions come into your mind. When was the origin? And I initially went back to 5,500 BCE for the origin of the zodiac, because that's roughly when Enoch, we know, was grandfather of Noah, or great grandfather of Noah. That's roughly when we think he might have been around. I'm not going to quibble over a few hundred years, but that's sort of roughly right. And we know that he took instruction from Uriel, from the Book of Enoch. So we know there were people there already who already had the information. He was receiving information from someone else, and he was recharting the heavens. So it needed recharting. Then you have to go further back. So if you understand the movement of the planets and have named the planets and the stars to reflect how they appear, you've got to know how they behave.
Does anyone know how old Jupiter is?
It's probably very old, but it might be not that. It might have been here recently. In fact, there is a hypothesis where a star called Schultz's star passed close by us around 50, 60 something thousand years ago. And it's not my hypothesis, but Jupiter may have entered our solar system at that time.
Wow. That's what's that hypothesis? Sorry?
Schultz's star.
Right. That's something to look into. I'd never heard of that.
I have mentioned it in my book.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
This is fascinating, Hugh. I can't wait to get into it.
It's wild.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we've blown well over time. I don't want to keep you any later than we need to.
Okay. Have we got any questions from the comments section?
Good question. We've got hundreds of comments, so I probably should have said at the beginning.
Oh, there's one there, look. Does ancient Welsh have its own original alphabet?
Yes.
There you go.
We have inherited it into English. So in my book, The Origin of Numbers, I tell you the origin of all our vowels. They are all to do with the stars. So the A, the capital A, is from the observer at the apex. It is the sunrise and sunset on the winter solstice, and the crossbar is the equinox. So I do all the vowels.
Right. So the roots of the...
I haven't done the consonants, but yeah, I would think they're all... I mean, the consonants are... Most of them are not symmetrical. All the vowels are symmetrical.
The ancient Hebrews, this is a reference I'm pulling out of my arse from about 15 years ago from Manly P. Hall. But I'm sure Manly P. Hall, in The Secret Teaching of All Ages, says that the ancient Jews believed that the symbols for the alphabet came from constellations originally.
Yeah, I mean, using their own histories, they say they're descended from Abraham. So, you know, Abraham was, 10 generations after Noah, something like that. So, you know, they're more recent. They may well have done. My work is about the origin. I'm not going to reconcile every culture to that. My work would be, 10 times bigger.
There's too much water under the bridge for that, isn't there?
Well, exactly. And that's the problem the Greeks faced.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, their stories are rehashes of previous mythology.
Yeah.
The Herculean labors. I mean, I do a little bit of diving into this to demonstrate to the reader. I explain the 12 Herculean.
Well, that's funny. Just by chance, I watched Jason and the Argonauts yesterday with my kids, and
nice.
that's all
the
about
original Harryhausen stop motion.
the Ray Harryhausen version, from whenever it was, late 70s maybe.
Yeah, brilliant.
And so is there any sort of Welsh corollary?
Corollaries.
A Welsh sort of origin for that story, like the Golden Fleece and the Argo and whatnot?
Yeah. I mean, there's not direct correlations, but what they've done is they plucked out bits from other mythology and then sort of like made a bit of a fruitcake out of it.
Right.
Because these things already existed, and they had to have, when they set up their empire, they had to have credibility. So they just represented it and said, "This is our mythology now." I mean, a lot of it came from the Egyptians as well. Poor old Eratosthenes, he was forced to represent a whole load of Egyptian science as his own. Like latitude and longitude, which he messed up. And he's credited with designing latitude and longitude, but they're Welsh.
Yeah, he's credited with proving the Earth's round, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he got it from he got it from all the records when the Greeks arrived under Ptolemy I. By the time they got to Ptolemy III, which was the time of Eratosthenes, they'd sort of got all the stuff from all the priests from all over Egypt and stuffed it in the Library of Alexandria and were just representing it as their own discoveries.
Yeah. Wow. And we have such a bias towards that now, because of our education system, the classics, as it's called. Our whole Western civilization has a bias towards Greco-Roman culture and has done for, 1,000 years.
And what they want to do is they don't want to shine a light on our history because it raises too many questions. When I learnt history at junior school, it started with the Romans.
Yeah, history starts here.
They didn't want us to know what happened beforehand. If you look at the roads in Britain, we had chariots before the Romans, and if you dig underneath the Roman road, you come to the British roads. All the British roads, like Watling Street, that's a Welsh name.
Is it? Oh, go on, because we have Watling Street Road here in Preston.
Yeah.
I can't remember off top.
No, all right, never mind. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
What Kling Road?
Just embellish with some.
Amazing! It's good. It's really good. It's who would love this episode?
Who wouldn't?
Welsh people, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you say that, but I've had a lot of pushback from some parts that they don't want.
They don't want it uncovered.
Yeah, or interference.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Must be preparing for the great
reset
invasion. Raise the banners.
Yeah. It's been fascinating, Hugh. I think we should let you go. When what can we say? It's been a mind-blowing experience for me.
Yeah.
Well, look, what I said earlier was that you've got the books, have a go through them, and if you got any questions, we can gather them up and maybe do another discussion.
Would you recommend reading them in the order they're published or not?
What I would recommend is they're not like a novel, so you don't have to read them from start through to the back. So you could probably start with the origin of the zodiac, because that gives you a start to the thinking process. But when you start getting to constellations, I would go backwards and forwards between the books.
Yeah.
So read the introduction for zodiac, read the introduction of time, then read the introduction for numbers, and then go as you wish between the three of them.
Cool. Nice. Yeah. Right. I'm going to get on it. Well, Hugh, we're going to let you go. It's been fantastic. Okay. Thanks so much for your time.
Yes.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Encourage everyone to... you do have your own YouTube channel as well. Are you active on there?
Yeah, on and off. Really, I'm adding bits and pieces to support my hypothesis that aren't really in the books. So, yeah, there's more material there. So please have a look at that and share it. Do all the things that help the algorithm. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. In the I can see the comments on the side here. Thanks, everyone. Our story, Matt Apocalypse.
Yeah, Melissa's been in tonight.
Yeah.
Paul Smith from Esoteric Observer, I've seen. Merlin's Boy. Yeah, we need to create a community that's sort of like becoming more aware of this. The mainstream have been basically peddling poor explanations for a long time, and I think we need to start holding them to account. I in my book, The Origin of Time, I explain the origin of the 88 constellations. If anyone wants to debate that with me, I'm happy to do so. They were made by one people in one language a very long time ago. They're not a hodgepodge of errors from different cultures around the world, making everyone happy. There's going to be some people that get a little bit sort of like sad that they don't have the origin of some of these constellations, but nonetheless, this is the truth. The truth is important.
Yeah, well said. Right, we're going to sign off for this part and let Hugh go. And Hugo, we're going to let Hugh go, and we're going to come back in 10 minutes or so and do a bit of news, a bit of decompress from that assault of facts and Welsh knowledge.
Etymology,
and talk about some of the crazy stuff that's gone on this week, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. Nothing's happened.
Yeah, no's happened this week. Oh, my God. Right, stand by. Thanks for joining us, folks. Thanks again to Hugh for joining us, and we shall see you after...
Thanks to everyone at home.
Thanks, Hugh. Take care.
Bye.
See you in a bit. Bye. Bye. Back in 10.
Yeah.